Welcome to Navigating Religious OCD. My name is Sariah Harrison, and I experience religious OCD, also known as scrupulosity. I have for most of my life, but I didn't know it until I was serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints back in 2022. It was while I was serving my mission that my experience with OCD and scrupulosity reached absolutely debilitating levels, and it was determined that I needed to come home after 5 months of formal missionary service. It was quite easily the darkest, most difficult time of my life. I was just stuck in this incredibly anxious experience. And the worst part was I didn't know it was anxiety. I didn't know that it was a debilitating mental illness. I didn't know that it was scrupulosity. I didn't even know what that was. And so it was just this awful living mental hell. For many, many months on end. Today, I'm hoping to give an introductory overview of what scrupulosity can look like and why I'm creating this space, what I'm hoping for this space. OCD is pretty commonly misunderstood, and scrupulosity even more so. Scrupulosity is a type of OCD, and it's an experience with OCD in a religious setting. And so it's oftentimes very overlooked, very overlooked or not understood. And this was a huge part of my experience. Like when I was experiencing scrupulosity, I viewed it as a spiritual issue because everything inside of me was telling me to focus on my spiritual welfare and be concerned about it. And that's actually just serious anxiety driving you to do that. But when you're experiencing it, it is like, it feels impossible to make that distinction and to discern. And from the outside looking in, scrupulosity can look like it can look like that individual is just incredibly religious, or they're super conscientious and just like really into their religious experience and they really care about it. And although that is true of individuals who experience scrupulosity, what's driving so much of this like hypervigilance in their religious experience is serious anxiety. And it becomes a very vicious cycle that completely hijacks an individual's religious experience. It is awful. It is so awful. I've been working on just compiling different thoughts and experiences from my mission to try to explain, just to try to capture it and to try to explain to someone what it was like to be in that space. So I'm just going to read to you a little piece of what I've written so far. Okay, I had left home 5 months prior, embarking on the 18-month mission I'd anticipated serving my entire life. It wasn't just a mission. This was an opportunity to bring others to Christ. How in my efforts to serve him could I become so distanced from him such that I could no longer feel any connection to him at all? And not only that, it was worse than no connection to him. I was terrified of him. Every thought of God made things worse. How could this be? I couldn't read God's word without feeling completely condemned. I couldn't pray to him without experiencing deep fear of him. I couldn't experience a day without being terrified of eternity. I couldn't attend church without physically shaking in the pew. I couldn't make decisions without having paralyzing concerns about how they would affect my eternal salvation. I couldn't shake the never-ending feeling that I was absolutely going to hell, that someday I would have to say goodbye to my family and friends forever. I was terrified of what this all meant. How could this be? What had I done? What was I doing? What could I change? This made no sense. The mission was supposed to be a joyful time, hard, yes, but ultimately joyful, a time of drawing closer to Christ and helping others do the same. Why had I experienced the opposite result? I had never felt further from him, and it truthfully felt like I was only moving further out of his reach with each passing day, sinking deeper into an abyss I could not escape. Jesus, save me, I wanted to call out. I needed saving. I couldn't live with this reality, but even his saving didn't seem to be an option for me. I couldn't figure out how to connect with him, how to reach him. Others thought I was being too hard on myself. You've done nothing wrong. You're doing exactly what you need to do. Jesus has the power to save you. All right, I wondered, then why doesn't he? This was something I genuinely wondered. And it always brought me back to the same thought loop. If Jesus could save me from this, he would, I concluded. I'd been pleading for that to be the case for months. I must be doing something wrong, something that's putting me out of his reach. I truly felt like no one understood the reality of my experience. I wanted to believe Jesus did. I always had previously, but if he actually understood the reality of my experience, the full weight of the crushing pain I was in every second of every day, why wouldn't he run to me? Why couldn't I feel him near? If not relieving, at least comforting. Why wouldn't he teach me some way to navigate out of it? Why wouldn't he bring people into my life that knew how to alleviate the perpetual pain? Why did it seem like the one person who could save me was choosing not to? I did not know what I was experiencing. I didn't understand that it was a mental health issue and not a spiritual one. I didn't understand the physically devastating effects of this mental illness, not only on my entire health, but also on my spiritual well-being. And it seemed that no one else around me understood that either. But at least with my coming home, people could now see how completely debilitating this disease of the mind was. A disease of the mind. That's how I would describe it. That's one of my favorite descriptions of mental illness. Like the mind, just like any other organ of the body, can become diseased. It can lack things that it needs to function properly. Scrupulosity, how I would define scrupulosity, it's an incredibly anxious reality in your religious experience. It completely hijacks your religious experience. And that's what I was explaining here, or a little bit of what you heard in that last paragraph. All these things that had previously been like core pieces of my religious experience and that I knew to be like solid points of connection to Jesus, things like prayer and studying God's word as found in the scriptures and attending church and turning my thoughts to Jesus. All of those things that used to connect me to him just became a part of this incredibly anxious, like perpetually anxious experience. All of those things used to be compass-like directions pointing me to legitimate connection to Jesus. And they now felt like they were just in part of this, just a big part of this incredibly anxious and confusing experience that left me feeling totally lost in knowing where to go to actually connect with Jesus. What had once been points of sure connection for direction became a perpetually anxious experience that truthfully left me feeling like I had no guide or direction as to how to move forward and how to actually connect with Jesus. Scrupulosity hijacks your religious experience, and it is absolutely terrifying when you are experiencing it. I'll share more of what this looked like for me on my mission and what it has looked like since. But I'm also hoping to have other people who've experienced scrupulosity or who are experiencing it. I'm hoping to have them come on and share their experiences as well. There are as many experiences with scrupulosity as there are individuals experiencing it. And so if you just heard mine, that would just be a small snippet of the big story, of the big experience of scrupulosity. I'm also hoping to share resources. I'm going to share resources that I have found to be so helpful. And in my continued seeking of God's support in this journey, and as I've followed where he's led me, he's taken me to lots of different, he's just brought me to, connected me with lots of online resources, online courses and videos by different therapists and professionals, different books and classes that I've taken, actually being in therapy and meeting with therapists, which I was initially quite opposed to. I've just learned so many practical mental health tools from all of these different resources that have been so incredibly helpful in my journey and in my continued healing. These tools that I have learned from all these different resources, as I've consistently applied them, they've truthfully become opportunities to see the world with new eyes. And that is where I've experienced such immense change and growth. I have felt absolutely stuck in this space of religious OCD at times, this space of sheer anxiety and wanting so badly to get out, but not knowing how to. And that's what's driven me to invest countless hours in seeking to understand this space and to know how to navigate it. And now I just want to share what I'm learning. And yeah, truthfully, I just want to take you along on this journey. My goal here in this space is to share my real to help you heal. I did not have much hope at all for any prospect of personal healing until I was connected with someone else who had experienced something similar. Hearing their story brought the first piece of hope that I had felt in months. And I mean that literally, like months, like 8 or 9 months. Like there was just no hope. And connecting with someone who had experienced something similar, just hearing their story, ignited this little flame of maybe there's hope for me. If you're not experiencing anxiety or scrupulosity, or if you've never experienced mental illness, my goal for you is still the same. I want to share my real to help you heal. And perhaps pieces of that healing for you will be healing of the stigma that surrounds mental illness. As I've been on this journey of increased understanding, of seeking to better understand my own experience, my eyes have just been opened with compassion for the experiences of others. And I've just come to see that we're all just children of God in absolute need of his love and healing. And individuals who experience mental illness in any form are really just incredible people who are walking through something really difficult. And the last thing they need is to feel the weight of our judgment. My friend, I'm so glad you're here. I'm grateful for your willingness to learn. I'm excited for the space that's being created here. This space to discuss the journey of navigating religious OCD by sharing experiences, resources, and practical tools. All right, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.